Today is day one of a 100-mile training for the next training block that we're doing. We are training for the Kodiak 100 miler. That is the second weekend in October, but we have a nice little short training block going into Kodiak 100 miler. So in this video, not only we're going to kick off the series documenting the entire training journey from today to the race, but through this journey, I also want to talk about like what it takes to train for not just 100 miles, but an ultra marathon. So that if you are training for a race that you're going for, whether it is 100 miles, 50 miles, 50K, whatever race that is, you can take these ultra marathon training principles and help you to crush your race. Let's train through our races together here. I feel like we're gonna go through this journey unfiltered and going through and basically giving you all the tips that you need to crush your next race. So I'll kind of talk about a little bit about how to structure a training plan in, from a high level stance. And I'll talk about, how I'm looking at my training block. And then we'll go into the very first workout of this training block that we're doing for the Kodiak 100 miler. So in general, first and foremost, let's kind of talk about how to structure a training plan in general. And so I think the biggest thing when you're looking to train for an ultra marathon is you always want to ask yourself one question, is what is the biggest thing that I need to do to make progress in this training block to be successful for the race I'm training for? For a lot of times, if you're going for the longest that you've ever gone, the biggest thing that you need to do is build the durability, or AKA how far your legs can go without breaking down, so you can handle that longer distance, right? Maybe you're going for a shorter distance, or maybe you're going for the same distance that you had before and you want to be faster. The whole goal there is to be faster at that same distance or at that same intensity. Maybe this is a hillier race than you've done before, and maybe your intention is, I need to get better at the climbs and the uphills and the downhills, right? Whatever those intention is, and it can be several intentions, you really want to define that in your training block, because I always say this, is no two training blocks are going to be the same for different people. So for someone doing Kodiak 100 miler, if this is their first 100 miler, they might just be focused on building up that durability. Whereas like for me, this will be 100 miler number 6 for me. I've done multiple 200 mile races, and I've actually been coming off a training block from 200 plus mile races. So because of that, I've been really focused on durability, because 100 miles is shorter for me than what I've been doing in the past. Recent past, I should say. My whole focus for this training block is to get fast, is to get much faster, because I've been really focused on building durability for the long haul. Now my legs are strong, they're good, they can handle up to 200 miles without feeling super fatigued. So now my big thing going into Kodiak 100 is to get faster, where again, some other people, this might be their first 100 miler. For them, it's more of a focus of building that durability and building that capability to go for longer periods of time without their muscles breaking down. You can work on both aspects in training, but it's good to define what your goal is, because that's going to articulate how you structure your training plan. So now that you have your goal, that's the biggest thing to do. The second thing is putting together what your training plan is going to look like in terms of what we call training blocks. Training blocks are essentially multi-week periods where you define a specific goal that you're trying to accomplish within that time frame. So if you have a 12-week plan, your blocks could be developed into 3 4-week blocks, or it could be 4 3-week blocks, right? And each of these blocks are going to have a different intention in them. One of the most popularized methods in ultramarathon training, and this is one that I work with a ton of my athletes, it's not the one that we do all the time, and there's specific times and cases for them, but there's one called block periodization, which is in the same kind of realm. But with block periodization, there are 3 major principles to think about when it comes to structuring your plan. The first thing is you focus on your weaknesses first, and then your strengths closest to the block. And the reason for that is if you can focus on your weaknesses first, you give yourself more time and more leeway to really hone in on those things as you get closer to the race. So let's just say you're training for a hilly race and your weaknesses are downhill. Focus on your downhill technique and capabilities in the beginning and work on that. And let's just say your strengths are the uphill, then you want to add in a little bit more uphill towards the end so you can really focus on those strengths closer to the race. So that's principle number 1, weaknesses first. As you go farther from the race and closer to the race, you focus on your strengths there. Second thing, least specific to most specific. So what I mean by that is a lot of the times when you're training for an ultramarathon, it's usually low intensity and really easy intensity, longer miles. And if you're focused on a trail, it's like you're going on trails and things like that too. Early on in the block, you might be focused on more speed. You might be focused on more flat running. You might be focused on just, not working on super trail technical specific stuff, because you're just building the overall fitness. And as you get closer, you can start to add in trails. You can start to add in a lot more low intensity volume. You can start to add in a lot more of those things as you get closer to the race. And the third principle is you want to focus on fitness first and skills later. So again, this is kind of where you can get some overlap, because sometimes if your weaknesses are the skills area, you do want to work with them first. But in general, you really just want to take the first few weeks of your training block to focus on just pure fitness, and then you can get closer to the specifics later into the race. Now, what I mean by that is, let's just say you're training for a race that has a lot of technical terrain, right? There's a lot of technical terrain. And if you go out on that technical terrain right now, you might be in a position where you can't really generate like a certain speed that's going to elicit that exact fitness stimulus that you need, right? That heart rate. Because let's be honest, we've been all on messed up trails in the past, and we're like kind of moving along, but maybe we're not getting that heart rate up as much as we need to, and therefore we're not building the fitness. But if you build the fitness first and you get fitter, and then when you go on those trails later on, you're gonna be able to move on those trails a lot quicker and also not sacrifice any fitness gains that you might have gotten. That's gonna help, because I think the biggest principle outside of block training, outside of 100-mile training, anything too, is this: fitness is king. That's the biggest principle that I always tell my athletes too. And so what I mean by that is, like, fitness is the thing that's going to help you to be a better runner. It's going to help you to be faster. It's going to help you to be better at the uphills. It's going to be better at the downhills. It's going to allow you to have better times, regardless of those things too. The reason why I'm so like just on top of fitness is king is because, you know, I've worked with people who live in Florida who may be training for a mountain race in Colorado, or I've worked with people who live in a very cold climate who are training for a hot climate. And I think almost anybody, unless you live in the exact place where you're training for, might be in a place where it's like, I don't have the ideal conditions, or I don't have the exact conditions. I'll even give you an example. Kodiak is at elevation. There is a lot of altitude, or you're at altitude for a lot of the race. And here in Phoenix, I mean, we live in 1,000 feet, so I don't even have altitude training here where I live. But the biggest thing is, if you get fitter, you're gonna be better at altitude. So focus on the fitness first, and then if you have the means and the capabilities to focus on those specific things, focus on them in the training. But if you don't have access to them, first of all, I would say, like, find an alternate way to get access to them. So if you don't live in a place with hills, maybe find a little hill that you have and do some hill repeats on, or use that treadmill and crank up the incline on there, right? If you don't have altitude, can you do a training camp where you can get out to altitude? Can you get out to it early, right? Try to find those things too, but don't so much focus on getting into the weeds on like the super specific stuff. Yes, it's important to do so later in the race, but a big majority of your training block, no matter what your goals is to build overall fitness. How does this work out for my training block and how I'm structuring it? Well, there's 3 main training blocks. And if you actually look into the last video we did about speed workouts, take a look on this too, because I go a little bit into detail of what these speed blocks essentially mean. 4 main blocks that you are going to be setting up your training with. Number 1, aerobic conditioning. Number 2, Vo2 Max. Number 3, lactate threshold. And number 4 is the endurance block. Now, real quick, what do these all mean? Aerobic conditioning is if you haven't been running in a while, or you need to get some volume under your legs, aerobic conditioning is just doing a lot of low intensity base building work to build your volume up to a certain point. Because the next phase that we're talking about is Vo2 Max, which I'll go into in a second, but that is a very high intensity session. And you need to have a big base in terms of volume and in terms of low intensity aerobic fitness before you can even do speed work, because the speed work is not going to be as effective if you don't have a big base. Plus, it's going to help you to avoid injury. It's going to help you to ease into the intense work a lot more. So if you haven't been running in a while, or if you've taken some time off, you want to go through an aerobic conditioning phase, and that's going to help you to build some volume up so you can get to a place where you can have a solid base going into your specific training block, right? So that aerobic conditioning phase can last as long or as little as it needs to be based on what your fitness is going into it. So for me, ever since Tahoe 200, I've been maintaining about 40 to 50 miles a week. And so that's a pretty good spot for me to like jump into a place so I can kind of skip aerobic conditioning. And if you have been maintaining or keeping a good amount of volume and you're a very experienced athlete, you can usually skip the aerobic conditioning phase and go right into the next phase, which is usually Vo2 Max. So Vo2 Max, again, is the body's way of processing oxygen. So it's how efficient your body can process oxygen. Higher your Vo2 Max, the higher you can process oxygen and the faster you generally are. And so with Vo2 Max, you are going to be in that phase doing very high intensity intervals. So what we usually prescribe here at Everyday Ultra, and what I suggest people to do, is train on rate of perceived exertion or feeling. So that's how we prescribe our workouts. And we use a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being all out sprint and 1 being you are barely even pushing. So with Vo2 Max workouts, what the typical week structure looks like is you're doing 1 to 2 weeks of 8 to 9 rate of perceived exertion intervals, which is what we're going to be doing today. And so you do 2 of those workouts in a week, and the rest of the runs are going to be either easy runs, recovery runs, or long runs. Now, a Vo2 Max session or block is going to last anywhere between 2 weeks to 6 weeks. So you can use that depending on A, what you need, B, what your time frame is of the race, and 3 is what ultimately that you need to be working on, or your experience with it too. Now, this is the block that's probably the least priority. So if you're on a shorter time frame, cutting this block is something that may be on the table if you need to as well. The next block is lactate threshold. This is going to be focused on intervals that are going to be targeting 6 to 7 rated perceived exertion out of 10. This is known as tempo workouts, as people call it, or threshold workouts. Similar structure to Vo2 Max. 2 of these workouts a week. The rest are going to be easier recovery runs, and then you're going to have long runs onto the week 2. Now, this is usually the toughest phase because this is tending where the volume starts to get a little bit higher and the intensity is also high, and these workouts are pretty tough. But this is the phase where I usually see, and also documented by studies and evidence too, that this is where you can get some of the biggest bang for your buck in terms of fitness-wise in your training plan. So this lactate threshold phase can last anywhere between, again, 2 weeks, and this can go up to either 6 or even 8 weeks, depending on how long your plan is or how much you've been working on it. Now, the last phase, probably the most important phase, is the endurance phase. This is where the meat and potatoes of your ultra training comes in. And this is going to be focused on 2 different things. One, predominantly building peak low intensity volume, but also adding steady state work, which is just 4 to 5 rated perceived exertion out of 10. And this is going to be your sub-aerobic threshold work. So aerobic threshold is basically a fancy word to say, like, what is the point when your body kicks from the low intensity mode into the high intensity mode? And aerobic threshold is the threshold between those two. Steady state is right on the line below that. So you're working like that full spectrum of the easy work in there of that low intensity. So in this phase, it can either be 1 to 2 workouts a week of steady state work, and the rest is going to be easy runs and long runs, and this is going to be predominantly a high volume kind of session. And then this phase is going to last anywhere between 4 weeks to, can last a 10, 11, or 12 weeks, depending on how long your thing is too. Now again, if you have a shorter time frame and you're focused on durability, focus on endurance, and then lactate threshold if you're on a tight time frame and you can't fit in Vo2 Max. If you can't fit in Vo2 Max or lactate at all, you might just want to focus on endurance work, right? Or here's the third option, which is what my option is here, is for Kodiak 100 miler. I've been doing a lot of endurance work for my 200s, so I'm just gonna primarily focus on the 2 speed blocks. So I'm going into a Vo2 Max block, which is gonna last for several weeks. Then I'm gonna go into a lactate threshold block, and then I'm gonna go right into the taper onto there too. So I'm skipping the endurance block entirely because for me, I've been doing a lot of endurance work and training into the Arizona Monster 300 and Tahoe 200. So even though I gave you the structure, even though I gave you the principles, you do need to adapt them based on your needs, and not every training plan has to follow a similar structure. And that's, I think, what the beauty is of like training in general, is like training is, yes, there's a science to it, yes, there's progress, but there's also an art to it to be able to mold the science to what you need best. And that's the biggest thing when it comes to any ultramarathon training, is if you can do that, then you're gonna make the most progress. Because like, listen, I think following a training plan online is awesome, it's great, but if you can take the training plan and then adjust that slightly to what your needs are, that's where you're gonna get the maximum gains. So my whole focus on this entire block is just to get fast AF, fast as I know, Christian, you're probably gonna censor that for the kids at home. All that being said, we're just gonna get really fast. Like, that is my whole goal, because for Kodiak 100 miler, I wanna get in the top 10, because top 10 gets you into UTMB, the Ultra Trail Mont Blanc, the Super Bowl of trail running in the entire world, and I wanna be on that stage in Chamonix. So top 10 gets in, and I'm gonna have to get fast, because I have actually lost a lot of speed doing a lot of low intensity work leading into Tahoe and both Arizona Monster, and I need to get those jets back. And what better way to do it than just launch into speed work? So enough of me blabbing, let's get to running here too. You know, of course I'm here like running and sharing all these things too, but sometimes I'm like, I just like to talk, maybe just to delay the hard workout. I'm kidding. But all that being said, today is gonna be the very first workout. We're in a Vo2 Max phase, so we're gonna be focused on a Vo2 Max workout here. So today's workout is going to be a 20-minute warm up at about 2 to 3 RPE, nice and easy. We're gonna throw in some strides right before it to just warm the body up. And those strides are gonna be maybe 15 seconds with 30-second cool down in between. Probably do about 3 of those. Then we're gonna go into 7 sets of 3 minutes at 8 to 9 RPE with a 3-minute cool down in between. And that's the general interval structure you wanna do with Vo2 Max workout, is 1-to-1 ratio with intervals anywhere between 1 minute to 5 minutes. And we're gonna start with 3 minutes today, just to kind of like ease into it a little bit more. If you're kind of coming off of a block where you haven't done a lot of these workouts, err on the lower side. The only reason why I'm not focused on 1 to 2 is because I've done many of these before. If you are doing them for the very first first time, start at 1 minute, start at 2 minutes, ease yourself into that. And remember, you wanna start at the lower time and intensity. So time and intensity wise, you wanna be anywhere between 10 minutes to 30 minutes. And right now we're doing 21 minutes, so we're a little bit on the higher end, but again, the more experience, the more time and intensity you can go, and that's what we're doing out here today. Yeah, we're gonna get out here. So I got a bottle here filled with some calories. Only, I think there's like 60 grams of carbohydrates in here, 600 milligrams of sodium. Usually it's hot here in Phoenix, but we actually have this nice, cool, overcast day. It's cool, but it's like, what, 85? So, I mean, it's cool for us because, you know, it's usually like 110 around here these times. So enough blabbing, let's get into this workout. Nice and easy today. Nice and easy, nothing to it, just pushing and, not pushing, I should say, just keeping it super steady, waking up the legs a little bit, keeping the heart rate low, and warming up is just all about just getting it started. A lot of people, they also ask me, they're like, why do you do workouts on a track if you're training for an ultra marathon trail race? 2 different reasons. Well, actually, I think 3 different reasons. 3 reasons. First reason is, I think from a mental perspective, it does help me a lot. I think one of the things that people don't underestimate a lot when it comes to taking on ultra marathons is they're very long, and there is a sense of maybe a little bit of boredom out there, where you're just like in the monotony of just running and running for a long time, and you might be in a position where you're like, oh my gosh, like I've been out here for so long, and I feel like being on the track, although it doesn't simulate it as much, but you're in this mode where you just see the same thing for loops and loops and loops. And I truly believe if you can handle running on a track for loops and loops and loops, you're gonna be able to handle the monotony of an ultra marathon, especially if you're in trail in beautiful places. Because at least at that point, you can look up and be like, oh my gosh, this is a great sight. Or maybe you are training for an ultra that is loops, then you're getting some good practice in. So I love the mental practice of it. So the second thing is, if you are in that least specific phase of training, it's a really good way to just kind of like build uninterrupted like leg turnover. So if you're in a really runnable race, which for Kodiak, it's a very runnable race. Like I want to be able to build like that leg stride so I can make sure those biomechanics are in a good space. And because the track is nice and flat, there's no obtrusions along the way, you can really open up that stride a lot more, because if you can do that, you actually increase what's called your running economy, which is how efficiently your body can move at the same amount of power, AKA you get faster. And so there is like a biomechanical element that does make your body more inclined to go at higher paces. And then the third reason, I just don't like to carry a lot of stuff with me. I can just leave a gallon of water over there. And so it just makes it a little bit more convenient to have a little bit of pit stop so I don't have to carry a vest with all my stuff, especially when it's like 85, 90 degrees out here in the Phoenix summer. So a little bit of convenience factor too. And yeah, I love the trails, and this might be someone's worst nightmare, but if it's your worst nightmare, why not just do it? Like you might just like embrace that side of you that is resisting it for some reason. And if you can show up to it and conquer that, even though it's hard and the most boring thing ever, then my gosh, that's good practice for when you're in an ultra marathon and you're facing those lows. If you don't like the track, get out just one workout in the entire block, overcome that, and you'll be in a good position. Now we're gonna hit 3 sets of just 15-second strides, and this is just to get the nervous system woken up, the legs getting used to running at a higher intensity, and just getting a little bit of warm up. All right, so first one, 15 seconds. All right, 30-second cool down, just a little bit. That's supposed to be taxing, just like a little bit of a wake up before we get the party rolling. It says how that body feels. First one's always like, you know what I always think about when you're doing this intense stuff? It's kind of like, it goes like clear and then it jolts you. That's why it's good to like do some strides, like so in the first interval you're not like, what the f is going on? Because your body's gonna be like that, because it's gonna be like, whoa, there's a lot of stuff going on. So you're kind of just like giving it the whole zap of life beforehand. All right. 2, 3 seconds. All right, last 15 seconds. All right. Okay, so warm up done, strides done. Now we get to the easy part. Just kidding, it's the hard part. It's supposed to be hard. They're intervals, they're supposed to be super tough. So 7 sets at 3 minutes hard, 8 to 9 RPE, 3-minute recovery in between. Yeah. I don't got a little much words other than like, let's just go do this. Let's dig deep and push hard. And I'm gonna put on some music, some like really heavy stuff. Let's go with this one. This one's pretty hard. Miss May I. If you want to get your face shredded off in a workout, this is the band to listen to. All right, 3 minutes. Let's go get it. Bring me through, Miss May I. Oh God. Whoo. All right, first one done. Oh, yep, we're back. We're here. Hello. I feel like I, transported to a different planet for a second. Oh, that means you're doing it right. Oh God, okay. Now, the trick is to not psych yourself out and be like, you got 6 more of these shits left? Because, man, I was in the middle of that. I was like, this is so hard, which is supposed to be. And my brain's like, you got 6 more left, but just focus on the next one. That's it. All we got to do is just focus on one at a time. Enjoy this now 2 minutes of cool down and ease into it. Gonna do a little drive-by grab of those sunglasses. Fun fact, sunglasses actually decrease your rate of perceived exertion. Why? Well, you might not think, but like the squinting takes up energy. And yeah, it's a small amount of energy. Compound that over 100 miles though, it's a lot of energy. So, am I gonna get it? Oh, couldn't break the stride couldn't keep the stride exactly, but.
If you're liking the training that you're seeing and you want this kind of training implemented in your life, given to you by someone who's been there and done that and personalized to how you should do it, then we would love to work with you and help to put together your training and give you feedback to help you crush your ultramarathon goals through our one-on-one coaching. So if you want to work with me and my team, you can schedule a free consultation call to see if we'd be a good fit for you. And we'd love to help you, give you proven training backed by science, personalized towards you to help you hit your ultra goals. Go to theeverydayultra.com or the link in the show notes, and we would love to chat with you on a free call. All right, let's get back in the video.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Pow.
Oh God. Okay, number 2. Whew. Oh, I said before in the last video, cool down. Take it as how easy as you need to be to let that heart rate come down. If you need to walk, you can go ahead and walk it. Man, is it hot in here or is it just me? No, it's definitely hot. It's not me. If you look hot running an interval workout, good on you. I'm probably looking ugly and stuff, just like, what am I doing? This is my life. Running loops, really hard, listening to heavy metal, trying to place top 10 to run around a mountain in France. Sounds ridiculous when you think about it, right? Sometimes you just gotta laugh and just be like, this is what we're doing. Yeah, it's cool to grind and dig deep, but have fun. You don't have to take it incredibly seriously. That last interval was tough. And we got 5 left, but the only thing that matters is the next one. 3, 2, 1. No words after that one. That one was definitely a doozy. Whew. But again, it's supposed to be hard. You know, like when you just wish for something? Man, I wish the sprinklers would just come off just so I can just run through just like, oh, it'd be so nice. But no, don't wish for comfort. Wish for strength. I wish to be stronger on these intervals. 10 seconds. Oh yeah, we got a good song on. That's like divine timing, baby. Let's go. Oh. God. Woo. Could take a little walk. Woo. It's okay to walk in between intervals. Woo. Whatever's going to get that heart rate down. By the way, if you're running in the heat, it's going to feel harder. Like your body is trying to cool itself down. So be patient with yourself with interval workouts in the heat, because it's physiologically impossible to run the same pace at a hotter temperature at the same intensity. Give yourself some grace with that. Just got 3 more left. It's less than 4. 3 is a great number. After 3, we'll have 2. And after 2, we'll have 1. And then after 1, we're done. Look at that, I'm like Dr. Seuss. I'm a poet, I didn't even know it. Feeling like a cat in a hat, except I'm wearing a headband. Try to think of an animal that rhymes with headband. I don't know. Handstand with a headband? Handstand's not an animal. What's going on? This is your brain on interval workouts. No words. Oh, just pain. Second to last one. Whew. All right, one more left. All right, one more left. It's the easiest one, the last one. Because after that, just cool down, baby. Just down all those carbs to supercharge this last one. Carbs are fuel. Very good to use them during the workout too. I used to not fuel at all really on any runs less than 2 hours, and then interval workouts I started to fuel during, and I found that I was able to push stronger, which makes sense because when you're going faster, you're burning more glycogen, aka what carbs are restoring, which is your energy. So more energy at a workout where you're burning more energy quicker equals smiley face. Smiley face with a lot of pain inside. Some people, they're like, don't listen to music while we run, and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's fine. Like, yeah, it's good to like get intimate with your thoughts, but it's a good tool. Use it. I think my best races were the ones where I listened to music. And not to say that like, if I don't have music in a race, am I screwed? But, just like caffeine, gels, like those are all tools. And you can use them to your advantage. 3, 2, let's get this last one. I kind of wish I could just be beamed up by an alien right now into like a cornucopia of like cold drinks and Normatec boots. Well, friends, that was the workout. Kind of just doing a quick offhand analysis. I think I took the first 3 harder because kind of like a good way to think about pace distribution is like your 8 to 9 RPE should be about 3 minutes faster-ish than your easy pace, and my easy pace is about like 9 minutes. And the first few were clocking in around like, I think it was like 5:35. It's a little hot, and then you can tell because the splits kind of dipped a little bit lower, which is fine. I mean, like, I think that's a good thing to look at. Ideally, you want to have close to even splits as you can. This is my first Vo2 Max workout in a long time, and so on flat, that is. I've done a lot of hill work into Tahoe with it, but first flat one, and you know, it could take some time to recalibrate the intensities a little bit, and I think, yeah, it's one of those things where each workout that you do carries good lesson to take into the next one. So felt good, definitely painful, and yeah, we're gonna run some loops and cool it down a bit, and then get some food and enjoy the rest of the day. So, oh, this grass is comfy, but comfort. Let's go out and jog out the legs a little bit. Thanks for joining us on this first episode of the 100-mile training series. We'll see you on the next episode and every week until Kodiak 100. And in the meantime, keep crushing your training. We'll see you soon.